Hello, everyone, and welcome to today. And thank you for joining today's webinar on the server-side tracking. I think we can wait a little bit more to have more people. Yeah, we can wait for 1 minute. This session was inspired by real situations that many companies are facing today. The data is getting noisier, harder to trust, and harder to use the data. So that's why we decided to have the webinar on the server-side tracking. Okay, let's start. So the title already tells the story. So from browser to server, how server-side tracking future-proofs your measurement. So over the years, the browser became overloaded. There are too many scripts on the browsers, too many blockers, and the privacy restrictions are also affecting the browser and the tracking. So our goal today is to understand why this is happening and how moving to server-side tracking can improve measurement quality and overall digital performance. So we are going to explore how server-side tracking reorganizes this entire ecosystem. And I'm your host today. I'm Christine Rock, analytics consultant at Programmads. And in my work, I support companies implementing privacy-safe, reliable measurement systems. In my work, I have seen many setups, some extremely mature, others very fragile. But across all of them, there is one common observation. The client-side tracking is reaching its limits, and the need for more reliable and more controlled data is growing. So this presentation is based on lessons learned across a number of migrations, including what works, what breaks, and where you get the biggest gains. And for the agenda, today we will start with the context, what's causing the tracking to break. Then we look at why server-side tracking solves those problems. And from there, we go into how to implement it, what to consider, what real-world results look like. And finally, we wrap up with practical next steps. During the webinar, feel free to drop your questions in the chat. We will cover the questions in the end, in the last section, or we will also respond them during the webinar in the chat. And if we are lacking some time, then we will reach out to you by mail and give you more detailed responses. Okay, so let's start. To understand why server-side tracking matters today, we need to look at what's happening around and what has changed in the digital world. What used to be very simple some years ago, a few scripts and some cookies on the browser, everything just worked fine. And now it has become a complex, restrictive ecosystem. It's not the simple environment anymore as it used to be. And this is the main cause of the discrepancies and the missing conversions that we face today. There are three main forces that have reshaped how tracking works today. The browsers have taken a strong stance against tracking. Many browsers, for example, have restricted the cookies for years already now. And the privacy mechanisms like ITP or ETP, removing the click identifiers from the URL, limit what can happen in the browser today. At the same time, the privacy regulations such as GDPR and e-privacy require advertisers also to be extremely careful about what data is shared and with whom the data is shared. And finally, the users themselves are making more privacy-driven choices as well. So together, all those factors create an environment where client-side tracking simply cannot operate the way it used to do before. So what does it look like in your data? Probably you see fewer conversions appear in analytics. Ad platforms report very different numbers, and retargeting audiences also are shrinking, and attribution becomes harder and more uncertain as well. So if you are seeing these symptoms in your current situation, it doesn't automatically mean that your marketing is underperforming. It often means that your measurement is failing to capture the full picture of the real situation. And the question is why the browser has become such an unreliable place to run your tracking. And the answer is linked to the data collection model of the traditional tracking that we use mainly today. So with the client-side setup, every vendor loads its own script on the website, and each one collecting data independently. So this creates three major problems. First, it makes the data governance very difficult. You have limited control over what each script collects and sends out to the vendors. And even a small change in one tag can also affect your whole setup. And secondly, it creates privacy risks, which is a very important topic today. Because the data is sent directly from the user browser to multiple third-party platforms, it's harder to ensure minimization and compliance. And the third is it affects performance and reliability. The scripts can be blocked, they can conflict with each other, they slow down your page as well, and even minor network issues can cause events to be lost, and some scripts can even break your website functionalities. For example, when we implement custom HTML tags on the client side, this can break the functionalities of your website as well. So all these issues come from the same root cause. Too much is happening directly in the browser. And this is exactly what prepares the shift to the server-side tracking and the model where we move the tracking logic out of the fragile environment of the browser into the safe place that we control. So this diagram illustrates the client-side data collection model. As you see, every tag fires directly from the user browser and sends the data to multiple vendors. It can be analytics, advertising platforms, and other. And this decentralization is the root of inconsistent data, the privacy exposure of the user data, dependency on the user behavior, and also the script fragility. And if, for example, one vendor script breaks, then the tag break and all the tags that collect different events, they would break of that vendor, and you lose the data. If the user blocks one request by the ad blocker, for example, you also use the data. And so today we need a different approach. And here comes the server-side tracking. The core of the solution lies in the server-side data collection model. It restructures the entire data flow so that it's no longer dependent on the browser. Instead of letting every vendor to run uncontrolled scripts in the browser, now you bring everything into a central hub, which would be your server container or your server infrastructure. And here in that server infrastructure, you decide what data is collected, what gets shared with other vendors, and where it goes, under what privacy rules as well, and in what format. So here you can really manipulate the data before sending it out. So, however, it doesn't completely eliminate the browser tracking. You still track the interactions on the user browser, but it's much more limited. And the majority of the events and data processing happens in a controlled, safe environment. And here's how the server-side model reshapes the tracking flow and how it would work with the server-side environment. So in the browser-based setup, every vendor runs its own script, firing independently and often inconsistently, as we were seeing it before. And with the server-side tracking, we simplify this, what happens on the browser. It doesn't mean that the system is simple, but it's simplified on the browser part. So when the user triggers an event, the browser sends one clean request to your server container. And from there, everything happens in a controlled environment. So the event can be enriched with the backend information if needed. For example, well, you can also clean the data, validate, you can do the privacy checks, and then forward to the different platforms, for example, Google, Meta, TikTok, Analytics, or any other third-party vendor. And this approach solves many of the challenges that we discussed earlier. It reduces reliance on the fragile browser conditions, avoid also unnecessary vendor scripts, collecting excessive data, sending everything, a lot of user identifiers and user information, and gives you a far more stable, predictable data pipeline. So yeah, so the server side platform report, the server side will not make all the platforms report exactly the same numbers, but they still have their own attribution model, but it does ensure that each platform receives the same high quality, consistent event, which eliminates discrepancies that could be caused by the tracking issues. So in short, the server-side tracking creates a centralized, reliable, privacy-safe pipeline that you fully control. And so here is a practical example with a Google Ads conversion tag. So traditionally, a pixel would fire from the browser and send the data directly to Google Ads. But in this case, the data from the browser would be collected by the GA4 analytics tag, which would be used as a data transfer. And it would send a request to the server container, where the Google Ads tag would fire on the specific event, and then send the conversion data to Google Ads. And of course, the Google Ads tag should fire only if the ad storage is granted. So in this case, ad pixel is not blocked because it is not anymore on the browser. And in result, you have less missing conversions, and you have full control over what leaves your domain. And this slide summarizes the main benefits of the server-side tracking, and each one directly responds to the challenges that we discussed earlier faced by the client-side tracking. First, moving the tracking logic of the browser reduces the number of scripts that has to run on the browser, and that improves the performance and makes your tracking far more robust. Secondly, processing events in a controlled server environment leads to a clear more reliable data. And third, server-side tracking enhance privacy and compliance, which is very important today in today's world. And you can enforce consent, remove unnecessary fields, and control exactly what data each platform receives. So these three benefits: performance, data quality, and privacy, map directly to three pain points that we started with when talking about the client-side tracking. Let's now look closer to each of them. When it comes to website performance, the server-side tracking reduces the number of scripts in the browser because we move the main part of the tracking out of this and put in the server. So this means a faster page loads, fewer conflicts, and more stable tracking, which would be less affected by all the browser restrictions. The server-side tracking is more resilient to ad blockers, network issues, and other measures that might be implemented by the browsers themselves. And moving to the data quality, client-side tracking is vulnerable, and usually often in the client side, tracking events fail or for many reasons. For example, ad blockers again, network issues, slow connections, script errors, or browser restrictions. And in the server-side tracking, it helps to recover much of this lost data and creates a much more stable foundation for your measurement. And there are a few reasons for that. First, for example, the first-party identifiers that you set up by the server-side tracking, they last longer, so users are recognized more consistently, and it would result in fewer new users. Server events bypass also browser brokers, as we said before, resulting in more key event collected. And because everything is passing through the controlled environment, the data can be validated, cleaned, enriched, or corrected before it's sent to the platforms. And one of the major challenges with the client-side tracking is related to the privacy and compliance mentioned earlier. So the server side gives us the solution to track in a privacy safe and compliant way. You can anonymize IP or any other sensitive data and send minimum data to each vendor, just the data that is really necessary for your measurement objectives or marketing objectives, and not everything that the vendor would like to receive for other purposes. So it's privacy by design, and this tracking model operates in a controlled server environment, and you decide what you send to each third-party vendor. So we have covered the client-side tracking challenges and the server-side solution, but the client-side tracking is still useful in some cases. So we don't get rid of it completely, not yet. You can have a hybrid implementation, for example, using client-side for real-time interactions and website personalization, and using server-side, on the other hand, for reliable, compliant, business-critical data collection. The two collection models complement each other for now. The client side will handle A/B tests, UX personalization, everything that has to interact really with the browser, surveys or chatbot implementation. But the server side takes over everything that is related to the conversion tracking, revenue, and user identifiers. And now that we understand why server-side solves the challenges we face currently with the client-side tracking, let's look at how we actually implement it. Implementation follows a structured approach. You don't have to migrate everything at once, and there are several ways to go for it. For example, you can opt for managed services like clouds, host servers dedicated to the server-side tracking, which are out there in the market. You can also set up your own servers for more ownership, or you can use customer data platforms if you already use the customer data platforms. And your choice will depend mainly on your technical capabilities and data governance requirements of your company. So before opting for one or another solution, you might think of the budgets, the technical skills, and the IT support available in your company, and also the security restrictions that the company might have in place. And the recommended implementation journey consists of 3 steps. So first of all, the preparation phase, where you audit, map, and plan the implementation project. You define the scope of the implementation, define the timeline and the resources needed and available. And then you move to the pilot phase, where you implement partial server-side tracking, choose some key events or some media tags, ideally set up a dual tracking, running at the same time client-side pixels and server-side tags with a deduplication logic. And then you continue monitoring it for some weeks or months, and then validate the setup. And once the setup is validated, you scale it, move all the tracking server-side, document the process. In this way, it can be more easy to audit in case of need. And then you remove all the unnecessary tracking from the client side and keep optimizing your tracking, of course, because it's not a one-shot project. Once the basics run smoothly, you can add advanced transformations. For example, enrichment, filtering, applying region-based rules, identity stitching, and much more. And this is where the server-side tracking becomes extremely powerful. And some concrete examples here. For example, you can use a low parameter logic, where you decide which event parameters a specific tag can access. For example, you can share only the purchase ID, value, and currency with Meta. With this feature, you allow Meta tag access only these few parameters and not any PII data that would be sent out by the pixel, for example. These restrictions have to be applied with caution, though, because removing essential fields can also break tag behavior and affect your marketing performance. For example, by weakening optimization signals, if you do not let the tag access some important information, or it can reduce audience quality. So always verify what are the minimum requirements of each platform applying restrictions in order not breaking your marketing performance. And another example would be exclude parameter, which allows you to remove parameters containing sensitive data, such as email, any PII, or that might be contained in the URL, for example, address, name, or other. For example, you could choose not sending user agent and IP address for the users in the EU region because the regulations are more strict here. And then the augment event is a very powerful feature and very much used. You can enrich the collected data with this by adding offline or CRM data. For example, you can add backend confirmed transaction status or add a user segment, loyalty customer segments pulled from the CRM that you can use for audience building in your analytics platforms and then activate the data to the advertising platforms. Or you can also anonymize user data, for example, email address or IP address, if you have to share it with the marketing platform for some objectives or customer match. So in this case, you anonymize the data. So these are just a few examples of what you could do with your collected data before sending it out to different analytics and advertising platforms. The server-side flexibility in data manipulation really respond to the privacy and governance challenges. It's much more flexible what you can do here than in the client side. It lets you enforce data minimization properly without breaking any features, ensuring that the right data is reaching the right platform and the quality is not compromised while the user privacy is respected. So up to now, we have talked about sending data from the server to advertising or analytics platforms. But one of the biggest advantages of the server-side tagging is that you can also send the data directly into your own data warehouse without passing through any vendor first. So here we can see an example using the right to BigQuery in the server-side implementation. Instead of passing through the analytics UI connector, you would send directly the data in the BigQuery. And this logic enables you to collect raw data, unfiltered, privacy-compliant event data directly into the BigQuery. Events become immediately available for dashboarding, modeling, churn analysis, or custom attribution, or any other performant custom analysis. So you can build fastly, activate this data in analysis, and you will have faster reports, and also you can activate this data afterwards in the towards the ad platforms. So here you are no longer dependent on analytics exports or vendor sampling. The data is automatically available in your warehouse. And most importantly, you have full control of your data. You can structure the data as needed. You define how the data would be collected and sent to the BigQuery. And you can apply your retention period of the data and your own governance. And you have a full view on your data. Because also here you can merge your CRM data with your offline data, online data as well. So in short, server-side tracking turns your server container like into a data hub, a central place. And once the event reaches the server, you can send it not only to advertising platforms, but also into your first-party data ecosystem, as we can see it here. And this unlocks extremely powerful use cases. For example, business-wide insights across all the data sets that you have, multi-touch attribution, deduplication with the backend sales, and audience building and activation. And also you can build a really long-term measurement strategies on on this central warehouse data. And we have talked about the implementation. And now let's see what it delivers in practice. Here's how you know that the server-side implementation actually works. Well, you should have higher conversion numbers. Typically, we see between 5 and 25% more conversions, depending on the browser mix and ad blockers or the platforms. And you should have also smaller gaps between analytics and backend. Of course, there will still be differences, but it should be reduced. And you should have improved audience sizes and match rates. So server-side isn't just a fix, it's a foundation for long-term measurement quality, and it gives you a more stable funnels, better attribution, and more trust from the stakeholders also who are relying on your data. Yeah, so to summarize, tracking gives you, server-side tracking gives you a single validated event data pipeline that feeds all your platforms. And this is the key to consistent, reliable, and reliable marketing measurement. Let's look at some concrete server-side implementation examples. So here, in this case, the metapixel was becoming unreliable and inconsistent. Page view events with unrealistically high volumes, while at the same time conversion events were dropping. So for the test period, we implemented the server-side tracking besides the client-side pixel with a deduplication logic. And we ran the dual setup for some weeks, 4 weeks. And this allowed us to spot the real improvements, 20% of uplift in conversions, and also more realistic page view counts. So in this case, the CAPI implementation helped to recover missing events and also stabilize data. And even when the pixel temporarily stopped working, the server side kept tracking, avoiding 100% loss of data for some events. And another performance analytics case. So a client observed inconsistency between the backend and analytics data trends. Of course, the backend and analytics data has huge differences, but the trend should be the same. So we migrated the tracking to the server side, and the server side tracking allowed recovery of default events up to 9%. And also the key events that previously were lost due to blockers and other factors. And in general, we saw more consistent funnels and improved conversion attribution and less unassigned traffic, which is also helpful for analysis of the channel performance. So after seeing real results, it's important to understand how to avoid mistakes that might prevent you from data quality improvement, which is the objective with the server-side tracking. So the server-side tracking can be a great solution to recover lost data, but there are many places where it can go wrong. So there are some common mistakes to avoid. For example, copy-pasting a messy setup or just to replicate the client side in the server side and not taking the advantage of removing the scripts from the client side in the end. And one important one is also ignoring consent. This is often overlooked in the server-side tracking. The consent still has to be collected on the client side, and the consent logic has to be applied according to the given purpose in the server side. Another one is over-engineering all the setup and then realizing that this is not actually working, or not validating the data flow and parameters attached to the outgoing requests. For example, even if the tag fires, it doesn't mean that that it manages to send correct data to the ad platform. So you have to check the request status and what it carries along. So server side is very powerful, but it also needs accuracy and a strong governance. And starting to conclude, so some key takeaways from everything that has been said before. So as we saw, the challenges at the beginning come from the browser constraints, all the restrictions, and the digital world of today. And the server side directly solves those challenges, allowing you to take control of your data, move tracking from the browser to a secure server-side setup where you can clean the data, manipulate as needed, and then send it out. As you can standardize your tracking, build one clean event pipeline, feeding all platforms consistently, making sure that all the platforms get the same high quality data. And you can protect the user privacy with such implementation. You have to apply consent, data minimization, and anonymization on the server-side level. And another one, so you can start small, validate fast, begin with a few conversion events or a few media tags, and then expand gradually. And you can also partner with experts. For example, Programmads can guide you in all this process. And to start with the server-side setup, we would recommend you to start small, validate quickly, scale confidently, and remember, you don't have to navigate this all alone. Programmads can support you at each stage of the implementation, from auditing your current tracking to designing compliant tracking, in implementing the dual setup as well, troubleshooting, making sure that the setup is working, and then finally scaling to a complete server-side solution. And also Programmads can support you in training how to implement the server-side solutions. And our goal is to help you build a measurement system that is robust, privacy safe, and ready for the cookieless future. So now we still have some time for some questions. I will see if there are some questions in the chat. Okay, I can see that some questions have been answered already. Yeah, some questions about the audience creation. Maybe also one question that is coming quite often that we hear, and I guess I don't see it here. Yeah, it's about the data gain that you can have, the benchmark. Yeah, well, this is something that we also have experienced. It's between 7, 20, 25% of data recovery that we can observe with the server-side implementation. And another question that we receive quite often is when it comes to the implementation is how do we choose the right host infrastructure? Because you can choose from different options. For example, should we use a managed service like Stape, or deploy on our own cloud, or use Google Cloud, or something else? And there is no single best option. It depends on your technical resources, budget, and the governance needs. For example, there are main infrastructure types, managed services, for example, such as Stape, Addingwell, and others. They are easy and fast to implement. There is no developer skills needed, and it is ideal for marketing and analytics teams that want a fast implementation and simple implementation, and it is good for medium-sized businesses. And your own cloud infrastructure, for example, Google Cloud, AWS, or Azure, these are used often when you want to maximize control and flexibility of your infrastructure. It's a bit more secure and customizable, and these solutions are better suited for enterprises with internal developers and IT support teams, because this is more complex to implement and make run the server-side tracking smoothly. And the CDPs, or customer data platforms, such as Segment, Tilium, Adobe, or others, are good when you already use the CDPs for other reasons, and they are more expensive, but offer also advanced data governance options. So yeah, these are different options that we can propose. And how to decide? Well, you have to think in terms of ownership and simplicity. And if you want to set up to have a quick setup, cost efficient and easy to maintain, choose managed services. If you need a full control, internal hosting, or strict governance, then you should deploy in your own cloud. So yes, I don't see any more question. This webinar is also recorded, and you will find it on the Programmads website, also all the others on the other topics. And don't hesitate to reach out to us if you have specific questions on the server-side tracking. And well, then thank you for joining. And yeah, I wish you have a nice day.